Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newburyport Zoning Board of Appeals. Our hearing is published for, of course, August 8th, 2023. It's just about 7:02, so we're published to get started at 7. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. While it's a short agenda this evening, we are waiting for one of the applicant's architects to arrive, but there's no reason not to get started in the meantime. I'm going to take a moment to introduce myself and the board, and we are also publishing online via Zoom, a holdover from a long forgotten era called COVID. So we will be kind of operating in a hybrid mode. I'll explain what that means just very briefly, but that's why the microphones, and that's why we still have the OWL system, which is broadcasting video. I'm going to take just a moment, establish who's here, establish that we have a quorum, introduce everyone, and we'll jump right into the agenda that is published on Newburyport's city website at Newburyport CBA. So to begin, I'll just call the roll, and if you could just answer in the affirmative or here. Stephen Delap. Here. Mr. Ken Swan. Here. Mr. Walter Bud Chairman. Here. Mr. Gregory Bennett. Yes. Here. Lynn Scow. Here. And Patricia Pecknick is absent, and I'm Rob Champetti. I'm here. So the way the ZBA meetings work, now that we have established that we have a quorum, we can conduct the business of the ZBA. And if you're not familiar, just give a lay of the land for those online, what few we still have, but to the extent someone's following online, anyone in the room. We will begin each hearing by going in the sequence of the agenda. We'll start by, when we get to the public hearing section, we will start by reading the public notice. I'll read the public notice, just basically describing the application, the applicant by name, the address, as well as a brief description of the relief being sought by the applicant, whether it's a special permit for non-conformities, variance, and then just a very brief descriptor in as natural language as we can muster, so that anyone who didn't understand any of the sort of sections of the code would simply know that this applicant is seeking to expand an enclosed porch or add an addition, etc. So we try to make it as as approachable as possible. Once we go through our agenda this evening, when I read the initial public notice and the description of what's being applied for, we will then go through segments of the public hearing. Zoning Board of Appeals, unlike other boards and commissions, because we are an appellate administrative board, we operate by a set of rules, Robert's Rules of Order. So you'll find it to be a little bit overly formal. That's not because we like to do it, but rather just so that we can kind of sequence everything. So my apologies in advance for that. We will start by reading the public notice. We will then open the hearing for the applicant to present the application. If the applicant or the applicant's representative is presenting, we just ask that you kindly take the podium and speaking to the mic, and that's mostly so that it can be recorded, and anyone following along online can also hear. Whether the applicant themselves or their representative, architect, attorney, engineer, all of the above are presenting, once that application is fully presented, we will then close that portion of the public hearing and we go to public comment. During public comment, we will put a slide up on the board, which just gives a little bit of the lay of the land. We ask that everyone kindly govern your comments to within 2 minutes. I have discretion and we often exercise and grant discretion, out of courtesy if nothing else, so that folks can finish their thoughts. We rely on folks just being respectful to others, and it was something that was very heated. Obviously, just looking at the room, it's not likely to happen this evening. So, but you never know. Once we go through public comment and everyone in the room is heard from, I'll then open up to anyone who wishes to speak who's online. Anyone who's listening via Zoom, if you wish to be heard on any application, just simply click your raise hand icon, and then we will identify you, or I'll identify you by name, or if you're calling in on the phone, I'll just be able to see the last 4 digits of your number. We'll ask you to unmute your mic. We'll do the same. And then we just ask anyone who's speaking to kindly give your name and address to Ms. Gretchen Joy, our keeper of the minutes, and just speak your mind. You need to be in a pro or con column. Just simply, if you wish to say, you can, but you need to simply just share your thoughts with the board. Once we go through all of that, we'll close the public comment and we go to questions from the board. This is when the board members themselves may well adapt in some form or another questions that we've heard during the public comment section. If you pose your public comment in the form of a question, please know that we mean you no disrespect if we're not responding and answering a question directly. That's only because the format of that process is for us to listen to public comments, not addressing questions. Though, the very next section, questions from the board, or when you should expect to hear in some form an adapted version of your question from members of the board. So we are listening, we're taking notes. You will surely hear some version of a question you've asked, because you're often not alone in those questions. So members of the board will take those questions and repose them in some form or another. Once we've gone through all the questions from board members, we close that and we go into the final segment, which are deliberations. We deliberate as a board out loud in public view, so that everyone can hear, see, and listen to what the board is toiling over. We have to go through the legal criteria. There's legal criteria that governs a special permit. Similarly, a special permit for nonconformities, and similarly, a variance. They're different, and you'll hear the board members discuss whether the applicant in their respective opinions or collectively has met the burden, fell short, fell strong, or otherwise, and board members speak and deliberate amongst themselves. Once we've gone through every member to each member's, until each member's content with their deliberations, I'll close that final portion. And then we go to a vote. And under Robert's Rules of Order, what will happen is I will invite a vote, a motion to approve from any member of the ZBA. That motion will be seconded. Once made and seconded, I'll call the roll. In order for an application to be successful, it must receive at least 4 votes in the affirmative. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members that are all part of our quorum. We will have 5 voting members, and I'll just state who those 5 voting members are, but all 6 of the members participate in every way except voting. Only 5 members vote. If 4 or more members vote yes, that motion passes, and that application is approved. So really, that's the lay of the land, and that's how we will govern things. With that, we will now go into, for the record, the 5 voting members will be Mr. Shannon, Mr. Bennett, Mr. DeWile, Mr. Swanton, and myself. And Ms. Scout, our associate member, will be deliberating and participating in every other respect. And if there's any refusal, Ms. Scout steps in as the 5th voting member. So having said all of that, we'll go into our first application, which is a continuation from July 25th. This is the Heavenly Real Estate LLC, care of Lisa B. Talbot and Costa, 193 High Street. This is a continuation of an appeal of notice of violation from the zoning enforcement officer, originally dated 5/16/19. Attorney Mead, do you wish to be heard on status and a further request?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lisa Mead, Talbot and Costa, 30 Green Street. We're requesting a continuance to your August 22nd meeting. We had hoped that we would be able to withdraw the application this evening. However, the appeal period hasn't finished running for the decision of the board. And so assuming no appeal is taken, we would file a withdrawal shortly thereafter, but the appeal period doesn't run until August 15th, given the date that the decision was filed.
Very good, thank you. So a request to August 22nd.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any comments or do we have a motion to continue at the applicant's request for that application to August 22nd? Anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue the appeal for notice of violation 2019-042 to the August 22nd, 2023 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. And do we have a second? I'll second. Mr. Swanton seconded. Motion made by Mr. Shannon, seconded by Mr. Swanton. Calling the roll. Mr. Swanton.
Yes.
Mr. Delisle.
Confused from this one.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Shannon.
Yes.
Ms. Scout.
Yes.
And Rob Champetti, I vote yes. That's 5 in the affirmative. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Matter is continued to August 22nd. Thank you. Moving now to our first public hearing that is brand new before us. This is the application of Chris Crump. The application is 390 Merrimack Street, rear. This is a special permit for nonconformities. The applicant seeks all necessary permits, permissions, and approvals to enclose an existing porch space at the non-conforming side yard setback and add an upward extension via a change in the roof line at a portion of the existing home. May we hear from them, sir?
Hi, thank you, Chair.
My name is Chris Crump, CWC Design, 19L Inn Street, Newburyport, representing my client, Kevin McKee, who resides at 390R Merrimack Street. So in this project, we are looking to put a second floor extension in the area that you see on the site plan in yellow. That is the area in which we were doing it. That is the what we're looking for approval for today due to its setback from the property line. As you can see, the house is extremely pre-existing non-conforming, and that is 0.35 feet from the property line. But the extension is going straight up and a continuation from the main roof over. There is a second addition that we're doing on the property, just to be clear, and that's in the pink. That's a second floor addition that's going there, and that's well within all the setbacks and parameters of the zoning bylaws. So we are allowed to do that by right. So right now we are focused on the portion in yellow. Okay, if you could forward to the next screen, please. So the zoning matrix here pretty much stays the same throughout the whole board. Everything seems to be unchanged. We're not raising the roof. We're not protruding further into any of the setbacks. We're simply going straight up. Next slide, please. So this is the current existing dormer and roof line that's there. On the left-hand side is the roof line of the main house. And for all intents and purposes, basically all we're doing is we're continuing the roof line on the left-hand side straight over the covered porch to the edge, to the right edge of the house. And we're putting another dormer in its place. The same exact dormer, but just bringing it forward in the same plane as the dormers on the left-hand side. This will allow us to be able to put a small master bathroom inside that new configuration. This addition on the front will add approximately 57 square feet of living space. You'll remember up the next slide. This is just the same from a different angle, so you get an idea of what the house is like. Next slide. So this is what the house would look like when it's completed. As you can see, what we're trying to do here is make it look like it was there intentionally from the beginning, which any good design will have that characteristic. So when you look at it, it looks like that was intentionally there all the way through and seamless. Next slide. This is just the existing first floor. We're not doing anything on the first floor. But the bottom right-hand corner is where that covered porch and stairs of the front door is. That's underneath where we're going to put the extension of the second floor. Second floor, please. So here I color coded the floors again to show you, this is the existing, to show you exactly the locations of where we're putting these additions. On the back side is the one addition that we're putting back there for an office. That's a second floor addition. That's also, like I said, it's inside the setbacks and by right. The addition in question is the one in the yellow box in the lower right-hand corner. And we'll be taking out those closets and putting in a master bath. Next slide, please. So this is the existing elevation now. And just keep going, please. Thank you. And this is the rear elevation as well, existing now. And next one. So this is the proposed second floor plan. As you can see, the office is in the back, but more importantly, in the front, the yellow area indicates the new square footage that we'll be adding to that space. So now we can put in a shower, a small sink, a toilet, and some shelving, and with the dormer also included. So it won't be a completely full height, but it will be functional enough to have a bathroom right off the master bath. Next slide. Again, I color coded it so you can see exactly where this new addition is going. And on the side, again, the extension of the existing main roof just comes all the way up to the facing gable. Next slide. And this is the addition on the rear, just to be clear, this is what we're doing on the back side, but doesn't need to do, but I want to illustrate it so there's no confusion as to what's going on. Sections, this is just the permit set. So if and when we're approved, we can be ready to go. Next slide. And this is a section through the bathroom. So you can get an idea, the new roof line, they'll be going over the existing roof line. The next point I'll worry about is the window door schedule. Is that it? Okay. So, that's about it for the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything you might have.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And so with that presentation now, we will open it up to public comment. And I'll just ask that the slide be put up for anyone that is in the room that wishes to be heard. Kindly just take a note if you've just come. We like to ask that everyone kindly govern your remarks to within 2 minutes each, and feel free to just raise your hand. We'll recognize you and we will hear from you. Anyone wish to be heard in the room? Yes, sir.
Hi,
If you could, please. And you just don't mind just giving us your name and address.
Sure. My name is Steve Gagnon, and we own the property at 398 through 402 Merrimack Street, so we're the side A abutter. As Chris highlighted, there's a 3 to 4 inch tolerance on that property line. The only thing I would ask of the board, and just in consideration, is that the plan that's been showcased is a 2013 plan. I don't know if that property has been expanded. So a lot can happen in 10 years. So one of the things I was thinking is that, if it's a reasonable request to have that looked at. The other thing is the abutter uses our land for their parking. It's not shown on the plan. So I'd like to see a new plan and then maybe the property staked so that I can visualize it with the owner and kind of see what's going on. They'll need access over our land to actually put that addition on.
Very good. Was that it, sir?
That's it.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Being no other hands in the room, I'll go to our online Zoom meeting, and anyone who wishes to be heard online, just kindly raise your hand. We'll recognize you. Going once, going, looks like we have a hand, Mr. Kevin McGee. Mr. McGee, if you can hear us, if you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, we'll do the same here, and then just kindly let us know your thoughts, sir.
Hi, this is Kevin McGee. I'm the owner of 390R Merrimack Street. And apologize, couldn't be there today because of a family issue. I am working with Chris, and I did speak with Steve. We do about the issue, and we're going to try to see if we can work through that. We do have an easement for that from, I think, the original plans when the house was built in 1999, so we can work on that. And so looking to see if we can get approval for this, as it's just going over the existing porch that's already there. So I appreciate the review, and I'm going to definitely work with Steve on his questions as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McGee. Anyone else online wishing to be heard? You can just raise your hand. And Mr. McGee, if you want to just go ahead and lower your hand for us to on your end, I appreciate that. Thanks, sir. Seeing no hands, going once, going twice. I will go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and we will go to questions from the board. Which one? Start with you if you have any questions. Hello? Hello? Is it great? Testing? There it is.
Yeah, my question had just come up about the site plan, the survey, how recent it is. Could you put up the site plan? I think it has a date on it of 2013. Down the corner there. Could you comment upon the accuracy of the site plan?
Yes. So the site plan this site plan was done in 2013 or 14. I'm not quite sure the date on it, but around that proximity. At one time recently, the owner was looking to purchase a piece of land from another abutter to the north, I believe. And he had another site plan done, but it was with other property lines in regards to what properties he would be swapping or purchasing from them. And during that time, the abutter sold their house to another person who decided that they did not want to go through with that sale. So that site plan was no longer valid because it had different property lines in which they were trying to exchange land. But the site plan that was there and the one that we have now in regards to dimensions, in the direct proximity of the house and the property line that it's very close to were exactly the same in the dimensions and so forth. So that's where we are right now in the site plan.
Okay, and the site plan indicates that the porch is currently 0.35 feet, away, you'll be going over that porch with this proposed addition. Can you do that without, can that be built just staying on your side of the property line?
Well, we're going to have to, but yeah, I mean, they've already started the communication, so we're gonna have to, we'll work with the abutter, with Mr. Gagnon, and make sure that we can address that and make it amenable to whatever concerns that you may have, and making sure that we take care of any property, anything that might be on this property.
Okay, I have no more questions, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Luan.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Just one. Can you tell me where the house is situated on parcel 2 Street? The one right to the direction is towards Merrimack Street.
Towards, is that, you mean Mr. Gagnon's
Is
property?
that Mr. Gagnon's house?
Yes, well, there are two apartment buildings, just to the, I guess it would be southwest. And that parking lot right there. There's a parking lot that separates his
And
house.
again, I'm sorry, I didn't pick it up. Point those out again.
So there's a parking lot, there's Merrimack Street on the bottom angle right there. And then there's the two apartment buildings that Mr. Gagnon owns. And then there's a parking lot behind them.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit of stretch of land between the property line and the parking lot. And then there's the house right behind it inside that yellow box.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Mr. Gagnon.
Oh, yes, two questions. One of them, Mr. Gagnon spoke. Were there any other butters that were spoken to? They're either pro or con that you're aware of?
No, we have not that we're aware of. We haven't heard anything from any of the butters. And all the letters were sent out and I'm not 100% sure if the homeowner has spoken to the immediate butters.
Okay,
But the majority of the other butters, the houses are fairly distant from the property line that abuts them.
right, and Mr. Gagnon is the direct butter.
Yes, he's the one right in front of them. Yes, he's probably the closest in regard and proximity to the house itself.
And he mentioned there's an easement. Do you know what the details of the easement are? It looks like when you look at the property lines, they're allowing them to park cars there, drive around on a dirt lot.
Right. So,
Would that also allow you to do your construction? You could,
yeah, from what I understand, it's an easement to allow for, so there's two residences as you go down that small driveway right there.
right, on the other side.
Caitlin, if you can highlight the driveway that goes down in between, right there. So that's the driveway that goes down, and then once you reach the property of Mr. McGee, there's another driveway that splits to the right.
Right,
And there's two houses right there.
Yeah.
So they share that same street or road, or I should say driveway, I should say.
so do they park their cars there too?
They park on their property line, but yes, there are cars that they park on their side as well. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure where exactly the easement is. Maybe Mr. Gagnon can detail that a little bit further, but and the easement and what it entails.
It's gotta be a pretty good size easement because you're 0.3 feet from the lot line and the cars are 15 feet long.
Yes, yes, it is a good size, from what I understand.
It's not
very
3 inches.
good size, yes. Yeah, they're not many smart cars, so it's.
Right, park sideways.
Yes.
Someone in the audience has their hand raised, Chair.
Oh, yes, Mr. Gagnon.
If I can comment, I'm not aware of any easements along our property line. As far as I know, their easement is to access back there. There's 2 or 3 houses, so it's the roadway that's the easement. But on our property, there's no easement that I'm aware of with the title search.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, yeah.
So how do they park their cars on your property?
They shouldn't be.
Oh. Okay. So there's no parking easement.
Correct. We're fairly new owners and we weren't aware. This has brought a lot to light.
Okay,
That's why I was requesting maybe stake the lot and walk with the owner and understand what's going on.
All right,
And
Thank
the owner has had a conversation with Mr. Gagnon just prior to this meeting to start this conversation and get the ball rolling on how to navigate through that scenario.
very good. Well, I mean, if it's in the sort of the sentiment of the board as a collective, oftentimes we take on matters and vote on them with conditions and stipulations to account for circumstances just like this. So they're conditional to that matters, if it's again, in the meeting of the minds of the board members, there would be conditionality to any approval. So we do have that flexibility, and we'll see where that goes as we get further in. Any further, Ms. Scout, any questions? And, but was there any further?
no, I'm good, thank you.
I don't have any additional questions either. And thank you, Mr. Gagnon. Thank you for your additional follow-up as well. With that, I'm going to close that portion of the public hearing and we'll go into deliberations. So in deliberations, of course, we are looking at deliberating on the legal criteria that's before us. This is a special permit for nonconformities. So let us just sort of tailor our discussions around the two-pronged approach for special permits. And why don't we start with Mr. Swanton, you want to dig in and
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, when we evaluate any of these special permits, it's a two-pronged approach. The first question is there a new nonconformity that's created? And there is not. The zoning matrix said everything was unchanged, if you will. There's no new nonconformity. So that gets down to the question of, is it okay to fill in above the porch there as is proposed in the yellow area there? And there the question is it more detrimental to the neighborhood than the already existing house, which has got this nonconformity? It came up earlier about, is this the right site plan? People are parking in the wrong place. People may be parking in the wrong place, but that's not really an issue of the board, in my opinion. And as far as is this the right site plan, it's signed by a professional engineer, has a stamp on it. I mean, we generally take these as written, and if they indicate they're parking in the wrong place, that's another issue for somebody else. Our question is this proposed addition in yellow to create a bathroom on the second floor, is it more detrimental than what's already there? And I see this as kind of a minimal expansion. The house is already 3 inches off the lot line. It's still gonna be 3 inches off the lot line. It's a long way from the street. Although it's close to the lot line, there's a big buffer, parking lot and a bunch of trees between it and the next house. I don't think this is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's already there, so I can support this proposal.
very good. Thank you, Mr. Lau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Mr. Swanton here. I see this as a rather minimal expansion of the structure. And to the comments raised by Mr. Gagnon, I think that those are issues that really aren't in the purview of this board, as I see it. So I can also support this.
Yeah, my colleagues have articulated my position on this. This is a very small expansion, 57 square feet. The nonconformity is only 3 or 4 inches away from the lot line, but as Mr. Swan said, there's a significant buffer between the dwelling, the proposed improvement here, and the home and the two structures on assessors map 68 plus 19 toward the street. So I can support this as well. Thank you.
Very good, Mr. Chairman.
Our mic is dead, I'll just talk loud.
Okay.
I agree with my colleagues. I have no concerns. I don't think it's more detrimental to the neighborhood, so I can support it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Scott.
I concur. I thought Mr. Swanton put it very well as to what the test is that we were supposed to look at and the factors in favor, and I could support this proposition.
Thank you. I mean, I'll just share, I don't disagree with my colleagues. I agree with all of my colleagues on the criteria, whether the criteria are met. But I don't think it's, you know, a terrible additional lift, just out of the spirit of sort of completeness to encourage the applicant, and it sounds like this is already underway, to engage with Mr. Gagnon or any abutter that would come before us. You know, we are sort of beholden to somewhat of a rigid set of criteria in governing this work. But we also live in the world with other human beings, so we try to practice that through the lens of empathy and common sense whenever possible. We always try to do that and encourage that. It's within our purview to condition it, we do that, but I think as Mr. Swan correctly pointed out, there are certain things that are within and without our purview. That notwithstanding, it sounds like you're all amenable to walking the site with Mr. Gagnon and staking it and just creating better sort of you know, common ground, no pun intended, on where the lines are and where the easements may be. And as long as I'm comfortable that that's being represented here this evening, you know, I certainly would support it on its legal criteria, but I'm further pleased to hear that that's also going to happen. So with that, I also support it. Was there any other deliberations before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, do we have a motion? And if I haven't said this before, for those that may have walked in a little bit late, when we do, when the board undertakes each of these segments of public hearings, we're at the last one now where we're about to entertain a motion. Motions are always made in the affirmative under Robert's rules. You will hear a member make a motion to approve. Please know that that doesn't mean that that member necessarily is about to vote in favor or supports it. It's simply the procedural method and mechanism by which the matter is placed on the floor for a second and then a vote. So I was going to point that out so it's not confusing if, you know, thank God not everyone in this room are lawyers, so that means that, like, you know, we're all looking at this as regular neighbors. I want to make sure that it's all very approachable. So with that, do we have any motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the special permit for non-conformities to 390 Merrimack Street rear.
Very good. We have a second.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Swanton, seconded by Mr. Bennett. Calling the roll, Mr. Swanton.
Yes.
Mr. Delisle.
Yes.
Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Shannon.
Yes.
Rob Champetti, I vote yes, that's 5 in the affirmative. The ayes have it, motion carries, the matter is approved. Thank you for your time and your comments. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Thank you. Thank you for all your help.
All right, moving to our next and final application before us this evening. This is the public hearing on the application of Atkinson Common Realty Trust, care of Lisa Mead, Tallerman and Costa LLC. The application is 15 Mosley Avenue. This is a special permit for nonconformities. The applicant seeks all necessary permits, permissions, and approval to remove an existing single-family home and construct a new single-family home on a lot with non-conforming frontage. May we hear from the applicant, Attorney Mead?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. Lisa Mead, Tallerman Costa, 30 Green Street in Newburyport. And with me this evening is the principal of Atkinson Common Realty Trust, Joel Willett, who is the builder. And as the chair said, we're here for a special permit to remove the existing structure and build a new single-family home. You go to the next slide, please, Kate. So the property is located in the R2 zoning district. The existing structure was constructed in 1952. The lot includes 21,690 square feet of area, where 10,000 square feet are required. The property is non-conforming for lot frontage at 79.9, where 90 feet is required, and a right side setback of 9.7, where 10 feet is required. The new house will conform in all respects to the dimensional requirements of the ordinance, but for, of course, the frontage, which will not change. Because the new house is more than 500 square feet larger than the existing structure, we're here due to the frontage non-conformity. You go to the next slide, please. And the next slide. So here is a site plan, and you can see under the orangish footprint you can see the hash line of the existing structure. And what you'll notice is the right side setback as you face it, or the westerly setback is now going to become conforming. And so all the dimensional requirements will be conforming. What you can also see from this site plan, and Eileen can talk about this a little bit, Eileen Graff is here with us, if you can also remotely, is that we essentially keep the same front yard setback. So it doesn't change the current streetscape of the area. And with that, and then I would just also note that you'll see that the backyard remains largely intact as open space, and there's no plans for Mr. Willett to remove the vegetation in the back, or the trees, I won't say vegetation, because he's obviously gonna clean it up and clear out some underbrush and things of that nature, but absent something dying or becoming a hazard, he has no intention of removing that tree line. He finds it as a nice buffer, both natural buffer for this lot, and obviously for the neighboring lots. So with that, if you can go to the next slide, I'll have Eileen review the architectural drawings for you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Eileen.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your patience with me. I ended up at home today because I tested positive with COVID, so I'm trying to keep everybody safe. So in front of you is the front elevation from Mosley, and what we're trying to convey here is the changes of the existing ranch to become a 1.5 story building. So generally speaking, the building is going to take similar in concept, maintaining the garage space on the left side, and then with more living space on the right. What you can notice on the site plan, but I could call it out on this elevation, is that we're pulling the right side away from the right side property line, and there's a fair amount of tree line there. By pulling this away, it will help the building have some breathing space, also pulling away from the abutter there, but nothing is changing in terms, as Lisa mentioned, in terms of any clearing or such. The tree line there is a great buffer, and that will remain. As you can see, we're taking a gambrel line, roof line on top of the first story. And this gives us the volume to create a second floor space, adding 2 levels of living space. The existing house is currently 1,200 square feet on one level, and we are going to propose a 3,500 square foot home on 2 levels. There's a small portion on the backside is just a single story, which I can show you in subsequent exterior elevations. So if we slide to the next. Here you could see the rear elevation, again, very similar to the front, only reversed. And on the bottom left drawing, you could see a 1-story, sort of, I'll call it a sunroom, projecting towards the rear of the property. As Lisa mentioned, all of the building footprint is now conforming. And in fact, it's a minor increase towards the rear just due to a diagonal of the property line. So while we do have that 1-story projecting to the rear, it's only 1 foot further than the existing. Sorry, I'm laughing. My iWatch is responding to me talking. I apologize. So then the next slide. Here we could see it from the sides. The bottom left is the view as if our back is to downtown, and looking at the side end of the garage and the living space above it, which is the master, which is the primary suite. And then as I was mentioning, that 1-story space is to the left, and that's the piece projecting to the backyard. And then the reverse of that is the bottom right, which is the side that is is pulling away from the right sideline that I was speaking of. And that is very similar in profile to the one on the left. As you could see in all of these, we have a proposal of, cedar shakes on the shingles on the top level, and then we have horizontal siding on the first level. We propose high-end double hung windows throughout. There are some areas that might be casement or awnings, but of high quality windows. Likewise, a fair amount of detailed trim you will see throughout the structure. And actually, if we could just slide back to the first of the elevations, Caitlin, I just want to point out the building heights. So here, as a reminder, the proposed mean building height is 26 feet, and that's going from the highest level of that gambrel. And then with a approximate ridge height of 29 feet to the very, very top ridge, which I'll let Lisa continue on how that relates to the neighborhood, but very much in keeping with properties all around in this neighborhood, both abutting and then across the street. So with that, I will pass the presentation back to Lisa, but happy to answer any questions.
Audio now unmuted.
The application is still in the neighborhood, that the pre-existing new structure. That next one. Building is a little, that's a little bit shorter on the street side than the existing building. Moving some of the space toward the back and the very large back. And then going up to the second story or the story and having other buildings. I think that doesn't, that's not going to rise to the level of being substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, you know, what's there. So we're going to do.
Also, I don't think that it is out of place at its size. You know, it's a little bit larger, but it's not, it's not out of place in terms of, I think, just like what you said, the current house actually looks a little bit very small compared to the neighboring properties, so this will probably make the neighborhood a little bit more balanced. Also, we'd look to have the, you know, Mr. Bennett mentioned the conditions about the trees, the tree ordinance, and then also I would be in favor of having a condition of keeping the substantially most of the landscaping. The beginning that I mentioned, because it is important to the neighborhood as well as this lot. But
Made by Mr. Bennett, second by Mr. Senna. All those in favor, say aye. Bringing now, motion carries. And Slade, is reappointed, as currently. We can also updates, updates. Those who put for them, we do that and call it. And that's all that's for those who after the.
So basically. Let's see.
I think it's a nice letter. One of the things that I would add that was important in our discussion was that there was no site plan approved by the judge, which was one of the reasons why we started discussing all the conditions, because they had changed the site plan because of and site plan that was presented to us had actually not been approved by the judge. And so all of it doesn't discussing. I think that's why. Evidence as to why the ZBA regulations on the garage. You know, I mean.
And to mention the executive. That's fine. We, Chairman, on the motion to go to executive session, Mr. Swan. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Our